Create thonged file description. Creating Part 1 of the Elf Woman and Dragon story. Path. Home, Claude. Elf. Dragon story. Part 1. Docs. File. Text. Amelia lived in a world where elves ruled the stars. Their kind had mastered space travel long before humans crawled out of their caves. Amelia was not like other elves. She preferred the company of her 3 small dragons to that of her own kind. The dragons were special creatures that could breathe fire and fly through the vacuum of space. They were loyal to Amelia and followed her everywhere she went. The first dragon was named Spark. He had scales that shimmered red like rubies in the starlight. He was the oldest and most protective of Amelia. The second dragon was Ember. Her scales were a deep purple that seemed to absorb the light of distant stars. She was clever and could understand complex commands. The third dragon was Blaze. His scales were blue with gold flecks that twinkled like tiny stars. He was the youngest and most playful of the 3. Amelia worked as a scout for the Elven fleet. Her job was to find new planets for her people to colonize. She traveled in a small ship with her dragons always by her side. The ship was designed for long journeys through space with room for Amelia and her dragons to live comfortably. The Elven Council did not approve of Amelia's attachment to her dragons. Most elves kept dragons as working animals, not as companions. They thought Amelia was strange for treating the dragons like family. But Amelia did not care what others thought. She knew the dragons understood her better than any elf ever could. One day, while exploring an uncharted region of space, Amelia received a distress signal. It came from a human ship that had drifted off course. The humans were not supposed to be in this part of the galaxy. Their technology was too primitive to travel so far. Amelia decided to investigate. She guided her ship toward the signal with her dragons perched on her shoulders. Spark hissed with concern. He did not trust humans, but Amelia stroked his head to calm him. The human vessel was damaged badly. Amelia could see that without help, the humans would not survive. The human ship had been hit by a meteor storm. Its engines were failing, and its air supply was running low. There were 7 humans on board. They had been on a mission to explore a nearby star system, but had encountered the storm and been blown off course. Among the humans was a man named Liam. He was the ship's engineer responsible for keeping the vessel running. Despite his best efforts, the damage was too severe. The ship would not last much longer without help. Amelia sent a message to the human ship asking for permission to board. The humans were surprised to receive the transmission. They had not expected to find anyone in this part of space, especially not someone who spoke their language. When Amelia docked her ship with the human vessel, she told her dragons to stay calm. She did not want to frighten the humans more than necessary. She stepped through the airlock with Spark on one shoulder and Ember and Blaze following behind her. The humans stared in wonder as the elf woman approached with 3 dragons flying around her. They had never seen anything so beautiful or terrifying. In their life, elves were taller than humans with pointed ears and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. Amelia's long silver hair floated around her head in the low gravity of the ship. Her skin had a slight blue tint that made her look almost like she was made of starlight. The dragons hissed at the humans, sensing their fear. But Amelia calmed them with a gentle touch. She explained that she came to help. The humans were hesitant at first. They had never encountered elves before, and thought such beings were just myths. Liam was the first to step forward and greet Amelia. He was not as afraid as the others. He had always believed there must be other intelligent life in the universe. He thanked Amelia for responding to their distress call and asked if she could help repair their ship. Amelia examined the damage to the human ship. It was worse than she had initially thought. The main engine was completely destroyed, and the life support systems were failing. The humans would not be able to return to their home planet in this vessel. Amelia offered to take the humans to the nearest elven outpost. From there, they could arrange transport back to Earth. This was against elven protocol. Humans were not supposed to know about elven civilization. But Amelia could not leave them to die. The captain of the human ship, a woman named Natalie, was grateful for the offer. She knew they had no other options. Their ship would not last another day. Even with rationing, their oxygen was running dangerously low as the humans gathered their essential belongings. Liam approached Amelia again. He was fascinated by her dragons. He asked if he could touch one. Amelia was surprised by his request. Most beings were afraid of dragons, but she nodded and gestured for Blaze to come closer. To Amelia's amazement, Blaze went right up to Liam without hesitation. The young dragon even allowed Liam to stroke his scales. This was unusual. Dragons typically only trusted their bonded elf. Amelia watched with curiosity as Blaze seemed to take an immediate liking to the human. The other humans kept their distance from the dragons. They were still wary of the fire-breathing creatures. But Liam showed no fear. He treated the dragons with respect and admiration. He even offered Blaze a piece of dried fruit from his ration pack, which the dragon accepted eagerly. As they prepared to board Amelia's ship, Natalie expressed concern about going to an elven outpost. She worried about how they would be received by other elves. Amelia assured her that she would vouch for them. The laws of her people required them to assist those in need, regardless of species. Spark remained suspicious of the humans. He stayed close to Amelia, always watching the strangers. Ember was more curious. She observed the humans with interest, especially their technology, which was different from elven designs. Blaze had become quite attached to Liam and kept flying back and forth between him and Amelia. Once everyone was aboard Amelia's ship, she set course for the nearest elven outpost. It would take 3 days to reach at maximum speed. During that time, the humans would have to adjust to living alongside an elf and 3 dragons. It would be a journey unlike any they had experienced before. Create file description, creating part 2 of the Elf Woman and Dragon story. Path, home, Claude Elf Dragon story, part 2.docs. File, text. As Amelia's ship traveled through space, the humans tried to settle in. The vessel was larger than their own. But still cramped with 7 extra passengers, Amelia gave up her sleeping quarters for Natalie and the other female crew members, while the men slept in the common area. Liam spent most of his time in the engine room. He was fascinated by elven technology and wanted to learn as much as possible. Amelia found him there, often asking questions about how everything worked. She was impressed by how quickly he grasped complex concepts. The dragons adjusted to the humans in different ways. Spark remained cautious, keeping his distance and watching them carefully. Ember was curious, often perching near the humans to observe their behaviors. Blaze had become completely comfortable with the new passengers, especially Liam. The young dragon would sleep, curled up next to the human engineer, much to Amelia's surprise. On the second day of their journey, Amelia showed Liam the star charts. She explained how elves had mapped the galaxy long before humans had even looked up at the stars with telescopes. Liam was amazed by the vast network of elven colonies and outposts spread across thousands of light years. As they studied the charts together, their hands brushed against each other. Amelia felt a strange tingling sensation where their skin had touched. She had never felt anything like it before. She looked at Liam and noticed he was looking at her too. There was something in his eyes that made her heart beat faster. That evening, as the humans slept, Amelia sat with her dragons. She stroked Blaze's scales and asked him why he liked Liam so much. The dragon couldn't speak, but he nuzzled against her hand as if trying to tell her something important. Dragons had a special sense about people. They could feel things that even elves could. Not according to elven lore, dragons could see into a person's soul. They knew instantly whether someone was good or bad. Amelia's dragons had never shown such immediate acceptance of anyone before, not even other elves. This made Liam very special indeed. The third day they approached the elven outpost. It was a space station built into a small moon orbiting a gas giant. The station was hidden from most scanners, making it invisible to human technology. As they neared the outpost, Amelia sent a transmission, explaining the situation. The outpost commander was not pleased humans were not welcome in elven territory. It was against protocol to bring them to an outpost. Amelia argued that the humans needed help. Their ship was destroyed and they would have died if she hadn't intervened. The commander reluctantly granted permission to dock but warned that the Elven Council would not be happy. When they arrived at the outpost, The humans were amazed by what they saw. The elven station was beautiful with architecture that seemed to flow like water. The walls glowed with a soft light that changed colors depending on the time of day. Everything was designed to be both functional and pleasing to the eye. The outpost commander met them at the docking. She was tall even for an elf with hair that shimmered like platinum. Her name was Lyra, and she was not happy to see humans on her station. She demanded an explanation from Amelia. Amelia explained about the distress signal and the damaged human ship. She argued that the law of space required all beings to help others in danger regardless of species. Lyra could not dispute this, but she was still unhappy about the situation. Humans were considered primitive by elven standards. They were not supposed to know about elven civilization. Yet Lyra ordered the humans to be confined to guest quarters while she contacted the Elven Council for instructions. Amelia protested, but Lyra was firm. The humans were not prisoners, but they were not free to wander the station either. They would be treated with respect but kept under supervision. Liam asked Amelia if she would get in trouble for helping them. She admitted that she might. The Elven Council was strict about contact with less advanced species, but she did not regret her decision. She could never have left them to die. That night, as the humans rested in their quarters, Amelia received a summons from Lyra. The commander informed her that the council had made a decision. The humans would be returned to Earth, but first their memories would be altered. They would remember being rescued, but not by elves. They would believe another human ship had found them. Amelia was troubled by this decision. She did not think it was right to alter the humans' memories without their consent. She argued with Lyra, but the commander was adamant. The council's decision was final, unable to sleep. Amelia went to check on her dragons. She found them huddled together in her quarters. Spark sensed her distress and nuzzled against her hand. Ember chirped softly as if trying to comfort her. Blaze was restless, pacing back and forth. His behavior was strange, and Amelia wondered if he was worried about Liam against regulations. Amelia decided to visit the humans. She needed to tell them what the council had planned. They deserved to know the truth. Before she reached their quarters, an alarm sounded throughout the station. There was an unauthorized access to the computer system. Amelia rushed to the control room where Lyra was already reviewing security footage. To her shock, she saw Liam at one of the terminals. He had somehow escaped his quarters and was downloading information from the Elven database. Guards were dispatched to capture him, but Amelia feared for his safety. She ran toward the section where Liam had been spotted when she found him. He was cornered by 2 elven guards. Her dragons had followed her and now flew protectively around her. Liam looked at Amelia with fear and confusion. He had not been trying to steal secrets, as Lyra believed he had been looking for information about dragon bonding. He had felt a strange connection to Blaze and wanted to understand what it meant. Before Amelia could explain this to the guards, Blaze did something unexpected. The young dragon flew to Liam and landed on his shoulder. Then a faint glow began to emanate from both of them. Amelia gasped in shock. She had only heard of this happening in ancient stories. A dragon was bonding with a human. The guards lowered their weapons in astonishment. Such a thing was thought impossible. Dragons only bonded with elves, yet there was no denying what was happening before their eyes. Blaze had chosen Liam as his second bonded, according to elven law. Any being chosen by a dragon was under the protection of the elven people. No matter their species, a dragon bonding could not be undone or ignored. It was one of the most sacred events in elven culture. Lyra arrived at the scene and witnessed the bonding with disbelief. She knew what this meant. The council's plan would have to change. A bonded pair could not be separated without causing harm to both dragon and chosen one. Liam's memories could not be altered now. It would damage his bond with Blaze. Create knock file description. Creating Part 3 of the Elf Woman and Dragon Story. Path. Home, Claude, Elf, Dragon Story. Part 3. Docs. File. Text. The news of a human bonding with an elven dragon spread quickly through the outpost. No one could believe it. Such a thing had never happened before in recorded history. The other elves watched Liam with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. They did not understand how a dragon could choose a human. Lyra called an emergency meeting with the Elven Council via holographic communication. The council members appeared as shimmering figures in the conference room. They listened in silence as Lyra explained what had happened. Their faces showed shock and disbelief. According to ancient law, any being chosen by a dragon was to be respected and protected. The bond between dragon and chosen one was sacred and could not be broken. Even the highest council could not interfere with such a bond. After much debate, the council made a new decision. The humans would not have their memories altered. They would be allowed to return to Earth, but they must swear an oath not to reveal the existence of elves to other humans. Liam, however, was a special case. Because of his bond with Blaze, Liam could not return to Earth permanently. The bond required proximity to maintain its strength. If Liam and Blaze were separated for too long, both would suffer. Liam would need to divide his time between Earth and Elven space. This created a problem. The other humans could not be expected to keep such a secret if one of their own was regularly visiting Elven territory. The council decided that the human crew would need to become official ambassadors. They would be the first humans to know about Elven civilization, with the responsibility of preparing humanity for eventual contact. Natalie and her crew were stunned by this turn of events. They had expected a simple rescue and return to Earth. Now they were being told they would be ambassadors between two species. The responsibility was enormous. Amelia was assigned as their guide and teacher. She would help them understand Elven culture and prepare them for their new role. It was an unprecedented assignment, but Amelia was the logical choice. She had already formed a connection with the humans especially. Liam was struggling to understand his bond with Blaze. He could feel the dragon's emotions as if they were his own. He knew when Blaze was hungry, or tired, or excited. It was overwhelming at times, but also wonderful. He had always felt a connection to animals, but this was different. This was like having part of another being living in his mind. Amelia began teaching Liam about dragon care. She showed him how to groom Blaze's scales and what foods were best for a growing dragon. She explained that as the bond strengthened, Liam would be able to communicate with Blaze through thoughts. They would become true partners. The other humans watched this development with amazement. They had all grown fond of the dragons, especially seeing how gentle they could be with Liam. But they were still wary of the fire-breathing creatures. Spark in particular still kept his distance from all humans, except Liam one day, while Amelia was showing Liam how to mix a special salve for dragon scales. Their hands touched again. That strange tingling sensation returned stronger than before. Amelia pulled her hand away quickly, confused by her reaction. She had never felt this way around another elf. According to Elven history, when a dragon chose a bonded one, it was never random. Dragons had special insight. They could see connections between beings that were invisible to others. Some believed that dragons could see the strands of fate. Amelia began to wonder if Blaze's bond with Liam had a deeper meaning. Perhaps the dragon had sensed something between Amelia and Liam, something that even they were not aware of yet. The thought both frightened and excited her as the days passed. Amelia and Liam spent more time together. He was eager to learn everything about Elven culture, and she enjoyed teaching him. He asked questions no elf would think to ask, seeing her world through fresh eyes. It made Amelia look at her own culture differently. One evening, as they sat watching the stars from an observation deck, Liam asked Amelia about elven relationships. He wanted to know if elves fell in love the way humans did. Amelia explained that elves did form deep bonds with chosen partners. These bonds often lasted for hundreds of years, as elves lived much longer than humans. Liam was quiet for a moment, then asked if an elf could ever bond with a human. Amelia felt her heart race at the question. According to tradition, such relationships were forbidden. Elves were expected to mate with other elves to preserve the purity of their lineage. But there were old stories, legends really, of elves who had fallen in love with beings from other worlds. Before Amelia could answer, Blaze flew into the observation deck in obvious distress. He circled around them, screeching loudly. Something was wrong. Liam could feel the dragons panic through their bond. He stood up immediately, asking what was happening. Amelia received an urgent message on her communicator. The outpost was under attack. An unknown ship had appeared out of nowhere and was firing on the station. The shields were holding for now, but all personnel were ordered to emergency stations. Amelia and Liam ran to the control room where Lyra was coordinating the defense. The attacking ship was unlike anything the elves had seen before. It did not match any known design, human or otherwise. Its weapons were powerful enough to damage the station's outer shields. Natalie and her crew joined them in the control room. They did not recognize the ship either. It was not of human design. They watched in horror as it continued to fire on the station. The outer shield was beginning to fail. Suddenly, Spark and Ember flew into the control room. They circled around Amelia, screeching urgently. She could sense their agitation. They wanted her to follow them. Amelia told Lyra she needed to check something. The commander was too busy to argue. Amelia, Liam, and the three dragons hurried through the station following Spark's lead. They arrived at a seldom-used docking bay. On the other side of the airlock was an old ship. It was an ancient elven vessel, one that had been decommissioned years ago. Spark landed on the ship's control panel and looked at Amelia expectantly. She realized what the dragon was suggesting. They could use this ship to draw the attackers away from the station. It was a dangerous plan, but it might work. Liam understood through his bond with Blaze. He agreed that they should try. The old ship was small and fast. It might be able to outmaneuver the attacker. Amelia hesitated. The plan would put them in extreme danger, but the station held hundreds of elves and humans. Their lives were at stake. After a moment's deliberation, Amelia decided to act. She activated the old ship and prepared for launch. She notified Lyra of their plan. The commander protested, but Amelia had already made up her mind. As the ship powered up, Amelia felt a surge of adrenaline. This was what she had been trained for. She was a scout used to facing the unknown. The dragons seemed excited too. They positioned themselves around the cockpit, ready for action. Liam took the seat beside Amelia. He had some experience piloting human ships, but elven technology was different. She quickly explained the basic controls. He was a fast learner, adapting quickly to the new system. Their hands brushed again as she showed him the navigation console. That now familiar tingling sensation spread up her arm. With the dragon secure and Liam ready at the controls, Amelia launched the ship. They shot out of the docking bay and into open space. The attacking vessel immediately noticed them and adjusted its weapons. Amelia had been right. The attacker took the bait. Create file description. Creating Part 4 of the Elf Woman and Dragon story. Path. Home. Claude. Elf. Dragon story. Part 4. Docs. File. Text. The old elven ship darted through space with the attacker in pursuit. Amelia piloted skillfully, using her experience as a scout to stay just ahead of their enemy. She executed complex maneuvers that no human ship could perform. The dragons helped in their own way. Spark and Ember flew around the ship watching for danger, while Blaze stayed with Liam, helping him monitor the ship systems through their bond. The attacker fired again and again, but Amelia managed to evade most of the shots. A few glancing hits damaged their shields, but the ship remained intact. They needed to lead the attacker far enough away from the station to give the elves time to repair their defenses. As they flew, Amelia and Liam worked together in perfect harmony. She piloted while he managed the ship's energy systems, making sure power was diverted to shields and engines as needed. They communicated with minimal words, understanding each other's intentions almost instinctively. The attacker was persistent, following them through an asteroid field and into the atmosphere of a nearby gas giant. Amelia pushed the old ship to its limits, diving into the planet's swirling clouds. The dense atmosphere provided some cover, but also created turbulence that rocked the small vessel. Through the bond, Liam could feel Blaze's excitement. The young dragon loved the chase, viewing it as a game rather than a deadly pursuit. Spark was more focused, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. Ember stayed close to the ship systems, using her innate connection to elven technology to help maintain stability. Deep in the gas giant's atmosphere, Amelia spotted a massive storm system. Its swirling clouds could hide them from the attacker's sensors. She steered toward it, hoping to lose their pursuer in the chaos. The ship shuddered as powerful winds buffeted it from all sides. The attacker followed them into the storm. Either their sensors were more advanced than Amelia had thought, or they were incredibly determined. The chase continued through lightning and hurricane-force winds that threatened to tear both ships apart. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck their vessel. The shields absorbed most of the impact, but several systems overloaded. The engines sputtered and power fluctuated throughout the ship. Liam worked frantically to reroute power and restore critical systems. The attacker seized the opportunity, firing a direct hit on their weakened shields. The impact sent the ship spinning out of control. Amelia fought with the controls, trying to stabilize their flight path. Spark screeched a warning as another bolt of lightning headed straight for them. In that moment, Ember did something unexpected. The purple dragon flew to the ship's main power core and wrapped her body around it. Her scales began to glow as she channeled the excess energy from the lightning strike into the ship's systems. Instead of overloading the core, she used it to supercharge the engines. With a burst of speed, the elven ship shot forward out of the storm and away from the attacker. The sudden acceleration pushed Amelia and Liam back into their seats. The GS would have been too much for a human to withstand, but elven technology automatically compensated, reducing the strain on their bodies. They emerged from the gas giant with their pursuer nowhere in sight. Amelia checked the sensors, but could find no trace of the attacker. It seemed they had finally lost them. She set course back to the elven outpost, keeping their speed high in case the enemy reappeared. Liam looked at Ember with newfound respect. The dragon had saved them all with her quick thinking and special ability. He reached out to stroke her scales. The dragon chirped happily, exhausted from her effort, but pleased with the outcome. As they approached the outpost, Amelia received a transmission from Lyra. The station had repaired its shields and was no longer under attack. Several elven warships had arrived to provide protection. The immediate danger was over. When they docked at the station, Lyra was waiting for them. Her expression was a mixture of relief and anger. She was glad they were safe, but furious that Amelia had taken such a risk. The commander demanded a full report of what had happened. Before Amelia could respond, one of the elven scientists approached with urgent news. Analysis of the attacker's weapon signature had revealed something disturbing. The technology was partly elven in origin, but modified with unknown components. This suggested that someone had stolen elven weapons and adapted them. This revelation sent a wave of concern through the outpost. Elven technology was supposed to be secure. How had outsiders acquired it? And more importantly, who were these attackers, and what did they want? Lyra called another emergency meeting with the council. The situation had become more complex. The attack might not have been random. It could have been specifically targeting the outpost, perhaps because of the humans' presence. The council members were deeply troubled by this possibility. They ordered an immediate investigation into any security breaches within the elven fleet. Records of all ships and technology were to be reviewed for discrepancies. Amelia, Liam, and the dragons were honored for their bravery. Their actions had given the outpost time to strengthen its defenses, potentially saving hundreds of lives, but questions remained. Why had the attackers come now? Was it a coincidence that humans had just made first contact with elves, or was there a connection? That night, Amelia could not sleep. She kept replaying the events in her mind. The attack, the chase, the escape. It had been too close. They had nearly died out there. The thought of losing Liam made her heart ache in a way she had never experienced before. She went to check on her dragons, finding them curled up together. In her quarters, Blaze was missing, though he had chosen to stay with Liam. As she watched Spark and Ember sleep, Amelia made a decision. She needed to tell Liam how she felt about him. The attack had shown her how fragile life could be, even for long-lived elves. Amelia found Liam in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Blaze was perched on his shoulder. the dragon's scales glowing softly in the dim light. They seemed to be communicating silently through their bond. Liam looked up as Amelia approached. A smile spread across his face. According to elven tradition, when someone saves your life, you must grant them one wish. It was an ancient custom, rarely invoked in modern times. Amelia told Liam about this tradition and asked what he would wish for if he could have anything. Liam thought for a moment, then with a playful smile said he wished for her heart. Amelia was shocked. In elven culture, asking for someone's heart was a marriage proposal. She explained this to Liam, whose face turned red with embarrassment. He tried to take back his words, but according to tradition, a wish once spoken could not be undone. The dragons seemed pleased with this development. Blaze chirped excitedly and flew in circles around them. When Spark and Ember sensed what was happening, they joined them in the observation deck. The three dragons flew together, creating a ring of fire in the zero gravity of the space station. It was a beautiful sight that left both Amelia and Liam speechless among elves. It was said that when three bonded dragons approved of a union, it was meant to be. The dragon's blessing was considered the highest form of approval. Even the most traditional elves could not argue with the wisdom of dragons. Amelia realized that perhaps this accidental proposal was not so bad. After all, she had grown to care deeply for Liam. The bond between them had formed quickly, but it felt stronger and more real than any connection she had ever had with another elf. And the dragons' approval was indeed a powerful sign. So, despite the unusual circumstances and the challenges they would face, Amelia decided to accept Liam's wish. She would give him her heart and take him as her mate. It was unprecedented for an elf to marry a human, but Amelia had never cared much for tradition. When Amelia announced her decision, Liam was stunned. He had not expected her to take his joking wish seriously, but as he looked into her eyes, he knew that he felt the same way. Their connection had been immediate and powerful. Unlike anything he had experienced before, Blaze, sensing his bonded human's emotions, chirped happily. The dragon had known all along what the others were just discovering. Liam and Amelia were meant to be together. That was why he had chosen to bond with Liam in the first place. Create file description. Creating Part 5 of the Elf Woman and Dragon story. Path. Home Claude Elf Dragon story. Part 5 docs. File. Text. News of Amelia and Liam's decisions spread quickly through the outpost. Many elves were shocked and disapproving. A union between an elf and a human was unheard of. The Elven Council was especially concerned. They saw it as a threat to the purity of the elven bloodline. Lyra warned Amelia that there would be consequences. The council might strip her of her position as a scout. They might even exile her from elven society. But Amelia stood firm in her decision. With her dragons at her side, she declared that Liam was now under her protection. According to ancient laws, anyone chosen by both an elf and their bonded dragons could not be separated. The other humans were surprised by this development. Natalie was concerned for Liam. She worried that he did not fully understand what he was getting into. Elves lived for hundreds of years. While Liam would age and die like any human, Amelia would remain young for centuries. Liam had thought about this. He knew their time together would be brief by elven standards, but he believed it was worth it. He had never felt so connected to another being. The bond he shared with Amelia and the dragons was something special, something worth fighting for. The Elven Council deliberated for days. Finally, they reached a decision. Amelia and Liam would be allowed to stay together, but there would be conditions. First, they must live on the outpost, not on any elven homeworld. Second, any children they might have would be carefully monitored for genetic stability. Third, Liam must undergo extensive education in elven culture and language. These conditions were strict but not as severe as Amelia had feared. She and Liam agreed to them. They would make the outpost their home. It was a compromise that allowed them to be together while addressing the council's concerns. The human crew prepared to return to Earth as ambassadors. They would establish a secret communication channel with the elven outpost and begin the slow process of preparing humanity for the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. Natalie hugged Liam goodbye, promising to tell his family that he was safe and happy. Liam decided to send a message to his parents explaining his decision as best he could. He could not tell them everything, but he wanted them to know that he had found where he belonged. He promised to visit Earth when possible. As the human ship departed, Amelia and Liam stood together watching it disappear into the distance. They were beginning a journey unlike any other. An elf and a human united by love and bound together by 3 remarkable dragons. The dragons had grown. Even more attached to Liam, Spark no longer showed any suspicion toward him. He had accepted Liam as Amelia's mate, and therefore part of their family. Ember had become Liam's teacher, in many ways showing him how elven technology worked, and helping him understand dragon behavior. Blaze, of course, remained his closest companion. The bond between them grew stronger each day. Liam began his education in elven culture. He learned their language, history, and customs. He trained with Blaze, learning how to fly on a dragon's back. This was a sacred tradition among elves. The bond between rider and dragon was strengthened through flight. Amelia resumed her duties as a scout, but now with Liam by her side. They explored distant planets and mapped new star systems together. The dragons thrived in this environment, doing what they were born to do. They became known throughout the elven fleet as the mixed crew, the elf, the human, and their 3 dragons. Not all elves accepted them. Some refused to work with a human, believing him to be inferior. Others feared that Amelia and Liam would produce hybrid children that might threaten the elven bloodline, but many younger elves were curious about humans and the different perspective Liam brought to their society. As time passed, Amelia and Liam faced many challenges together. They weathered storms, both literal and figurative. They fought against prejudice and fear. They explored the unknown edges of the galaxy, and through it all, their bond grew stronger. One day, while exploring a newly discovered planet, Amelia and Liam found something remarkable: an ancient temple built by a species unknown to either humans or elves. Inside, they discovered artifacts that suggested this species had known both races. They had predicted that one day elves and humans would come together. Among the artifacts was a crystal that glowed when Liam held it. According to the temple's inscriptions, the crystal had the power to extend life when given freely. From one species to another out of love, it could align their lifespans. Amelia and Liam brought the crystal back to the outpost for study. The elven scientists confirmed its properties. It contained a unique energy that could indeed alter a being's cellular structure, potentially extending their lifespan. They had never seen anything like it. After much discussion, Amelia and Liam decided to use the crystal. They performed the ritual described in the temple's inscriptions. Liam freely gave some of his life energy to Amelia, who in turn shared her longevity with him. The dragons participated too, adding their own unique energy to the exchange. The ritual created a balance. Liam would now live much longer than a normal human, while Amelia would live somewhat shorter than a typical elf. They would have centuries together rather than mere decades. It was a gift neither had expected, but both treasured. With their future together secured, Amelia and Liam continued their work as scouts. They became ambassadors between elves and humans, helping to forge an alliance between the 2 species. The dragons grew larger and stronger under their care, becoming legendary throughout both human and elven space. Amelia's former disapproval from her people turned to respect. As more elves and humans began to form relationships, the 2 species learned from each other, creating new technologies and sharing cultural traditions. What had begun as an accidental wish had started a revolution years later. Amelia and Liam had 3 children who inherited traits from both parents. They had pointed ears like elves, but human curiosity and adaptability. The children bonded with the dragons just as their parents had, forming a new generation of dragon riders. The children grew up traveling between worlds, learning both human and elven ways. They became ambassadors of peace, helping to strengthen the alliance between the 2 species. Their unique perspective made them valuable mediators in the sometimes tense relations between humans and elves. Through it all, Amelia's dragons remained by her side. They grew old with her and Liam, watching over their family with fierce protectiveness. When the oldest dragon, Spark, eventually passed away, everyone mourned, but his spirit lived on in the new dragons that were born to his mate. New generations of dragons bonded with both elves and humans. The ancient barriers between the species began to fade. Dragon riders from both races worked together exploring the galaxy and protecting their worlds from threats. The attackers who had once targeted the outpost were eventually identified as a splinter group of elves who opposed any contact with other species. They had stolen technology and modified it, hoping to prevent the alliance between elves and humans. Their plan had failed and most were brought to justice. Amelia often thought about the day she had found Liam's ship. What if she had ignored the distress signal? What if Liam had wished for something else? It seemed that fate or perhaps the dragons had brought them together for a reason. Years later, when Amelia and Liam were old, they would tell their grandchildren the story of how they met, how a joke wish had changed both their lives and the future of their peoples. The children would listen with wide eyes as the aging dragons nodded along as if confirming every word. Amelia would always end the story by saying that sometimes the most powerful magic comes from the heart. And sometimes, even dragons know what we need before we do. In the end, it wasn't just Liam's wish that had been granted. Amelia too had received something she had always wanted but never knew she needed. A family that accepted her completely, dragons and all. Their story became legend among both humans and elves. A tale of how love could transcend the boundaries between species, how dragons could see the connections that others missed, and how one accidental wish could change the course of two civilizations, forever. Whenever young elves or humans doubted that peace between their kinds was possible, they were told the story of Amelia, Liam, and their 3 dragons. It reminded everyone that differences could be overcome, that love could flourish in unexpected places, and that sometimes the most powerful bonds are those we never saw coming.